Part 1, School Safety. Hope is not the answer. Hello, this is Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. Welcome to Part 1 of our special report on the safety of our children at school. School safety. Hope is not the answer. In Part 1, we are going to talk about the various things that are happening at our schools that affect the safety and well-being of our children. In Part 2, we will briefly look across the landscape to see how well we have acted to solve the problem. We are going to ask ourselves the tough question: how well have we responded to the school safety challenges the nation has faced for so many decades? We'll ask the question, have we been kicking the can down the road, hoping that things will get better, instead of taking the bull by the horns and doing whatever it takes to protect our most valuable national treasure, our children? In Part 3, we will take a look to see if there are any new ideas out there that hold the promise of being able to really come to grips with the school safety problem and slow down the spiraling trend of school violence and other school safety incidents. At the Objective News Network, we use an advanced research tool called authentication that allows us to scan the internet for reliable sources of information that we can use to objectively characterize all sides of the news stories we present. Authentication helps us to navigate the vast seas of information out there to find only the most reliable sources. Incidents like Columbine, Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, Parkland, Uvalde, and so many other high-profile acts of school violence have left an indelible mark on the psyche of most American parents. Like most parents, we all worry about the safety of our children as we send them off every morning to school. We hope that our children won't become the unlucky victims of the next school shooter that happens to come along. But if the statistics are any indicator, hope has not served as any type of remedy for the sharp increase in more and more deadly school shootings. Okay, let's turn to authentication and type in, are the number of school shootings going up? Here we immediately find a data set at the Washington Post entitled, School Shootings Rose to Highest Number in 20 Years, Federal Data Says, written by Donna St. George. Here we are told, and I quote, school shootings in 2020 and 21 soared to the highest number in 2 decades, according to a new federal report that examines crime and safety in schools across the United States. The 31-page report released by the National Center for Education Statistics also pointed to a rise in cyberbullying and in verbal abuse or disrespect of teachers over the decade that ended with the onset of the pandemic in the spring of 2020. The surge in school shootings was stark. There were 93 incidents with casualties at public and private schools in the 2020-21 calendar year, compared to 23 in the 2000-2001 school year. The record year included 43 incidents with deaths and 50 with injuries only. But the rise of shootings at school may be just the tip of a much larger school safety iceberg lying just below the surface. Let's go back to authentication and type in bullying at our schools. Here we immediately come across this data set at Pacer's National Bullying Prevention Center telling us, and I quote, 1 out of every 5 students reported being bullied. Next, let's type into authentication student suicide rates in the U.S. Here we immediately come to another data set at the University of California, telling us, and again I quote, suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 24 in the U.S. Nearly 20% of high school students report serious thoughts of suicide, and 9% have made an attempt to take their lives, according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Next, let's try poisonings at school. Here we are taken to a data set entitled Poison Schools, Invisible Threats, Visible Actions, that talks about the environmental dangers posed by old, improperly located, and deteriorating schools. And here's another data set at foodinsight.org telling us about the importance of food safety at schools. And again, I quote, foodborne illness is estimated to affect 1 in 6 Americans each year. And while most individuals recover with fluid and replacement and antibiotics, populations with weaker immune systems, like our children, are at risk for more severe symptoms, such as nerve damage and death. In 2015, Attendance Works and the Healthy Schools campaign reported that acute illness accounted for almost 50% of student absentees. These health problems, which include foodborne illness, can cause developmental barriers and educational achievement gaps, close quote. Or how about fires at schools? Here's an interesting data set at the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, telling us, and I quote, in 2014 to 2018, U.S. fire departments responded to an estimated average of 3,230 structure fires in schools each year. These fires caused annual averages of 1 civilian death, 39 civilian injuries, and 37 million in direct property damage. Fires that were intentionally set were the leading cause of school fires, accounting for almost 2 of every 5 fires. School fires most often originated in a lavatory or locker room. 2/3 of school fires occurred between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Next, let's type in bomb threats at schools in the U.S. to see what we find. Immediately authentication brings us to this data set at the Arizona State University Center for Problem-Oriented Policing. Surprisingly, we are told, and I quote, there are no national statistics on bomb threats as such, though they are more common than bomb incidents. However, we can say that they are not evenly distributed throughout school districts. Rashes of bomb threats can occur in particular localities. For example, in the 1997 to 98 school year, one Maryland school district reported 150 bomb threats and 55 associated threats. The South Carolina Department of Education, in its 1999-2000 school incident crime report, lists disturbing schools, which includes bomb threats, hoaxes, false fire alarms, etc., among its top 10 crimes, second only to simple assaults, close quote. Here at the National School Safety and Security Services website, we are told high-profile school violence cases and other national incidents, along with easy access to formulas for homemade bombs on the internet, have contributed to concerns about bomb threats, suspicious devices, and homemade bombs in schools, on school grounds, and on school buses. Our groundbreaking 2015 national study of more than 800 violent school bomb threat and shooting threats revealed that more than 70% of the threats involve shooting and or bomb threats. We found that 30% of the schools evacuated and 10% closed schools, oftentimes unnecessarily doing so, which revealed a need for school threat assessment and training. Another area of school safety concern came to the forefront with the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic. Safety threats posed by communicable diseases at schools. So let's type in communicable diseases at schools. The first hit is at Montana's Department of Public Health and Human Services, where they talk about the recent COVID-19 pandemic and provide the common list of communicable diseases found in schools, from hand, foot, and mouth disease, head lice, immunizations, influenza, norovirus, pertussis, pink eye, and others. Based on information and statistics like these, it quickly becomes apparent that literally thousands of safety incidents other than shootings are taking place at our schools across the country. Next time in our series, School Safety, Hope is Not the Answer, we'll be taking a look at how well the system has responded to the increase in school shootings over the past 2 decades and the nation's response to preventing and responding to the other types of safety incidents occurring every day at schools across America. The question is, have we done all that we can do to solve the problem? And if not, what else should we be doing? It is what it is for Monday, October 31st, 2022. We look forward to reading your comments at our blog. See you the next time for part 2 of our continuing series, School Safety. Hope is not the answer.